Hello people, this is Sonali, the Melodramatic Bookworm. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to the Melodramatic Bookworm family. Also welcome to the last of my 2023 reading wrap-up videos, in which I talk to you about the books that I read in 2023 that I wouldn't recommend to you. That is my least favorite books of 2023. I read 140 books last year, I think about around that number, and I had quite a few favorites if you've seen my favorite books of 2023 video. But we know that if there are going to be favorites, then there are going to be disappointments as well. I had 18 major disappointments in 2023 in the form of books. And I'll be taking you through these books and I'll tell you why I wouldn't recommend these to you. Although I guess life is to each their own situation, I'll take you through all the reasons in this video. Don't you worry. And worry reminds me to put in my usual disclaimer that if any of these books are your favorites, please remember that just because they are my least favorite books of the year, just because I didn't like them, doesn't mean that I am personally attacking you. And not liking the book is my opinion, just as liking it is yours. So I hope that you will remember to respect my opinion just like I respect yours. Another disclaimer is that some of these books might veer into spoiler territory, because these spoilers are what I did not like about the book, and I do want to mention them, mention the reasons why I didn't like the book. Now that that is out of the way, let's dive right into this video and let me share with you my least favorite books of 2023, the books that I was disappointed by, and books that I would not recommend to you. First up is An Anonymous Girl by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. This is about a girl who's called Jessica, I think. She wants to make some extra cash and she joins Dr. Shields' study, in which it's an ethics and morality study, and she joins it. But there's a lot more that's happening than just meets the eye, and when it moves from just in that exam room, that couple of hours in the exam room, to the real world, when it spills over to the real world, how will Jessica react? And I was so pissed off by this book by the end of it. I can't even tell you. This was the first of my 2023 reads that I was like, are you serious? Are you still going on about shit like this? Listen, if you are going on and on about this crazy jealous wife trope, in which that wife is going to go to any lengths to keep an eye on her husband, to even go and manipulate people to I don't know what end, it is sort of icky to me, because I feel like the male gaze has been doing that for ages. They have pigeonholed women into this one particular stereotype of that women are unattainable, but once you attain them, they lose their charm, and then they turn into this crazy jealous woman who will not leave you be, who will not let you alone for 1 second. She will start control. All those stereotypes, these two have used very unironically. They have used them in this book. And if you thought, tell me how it ended, depending on that maybe we can see whether the book redeemed itself or not. No, banish that hope, because the authors also banished that hope. There was no point at all whatsoever. So basically that was my first least favorite book of 2023. No big deal. Next was Poemsia by Lang Leave. This is the story of Verity Wolf, who is an aspiring poet, and she has a best friend. There's a cat involved. Then she meets a boy, and then she stumbles on this odd book called Poemsia, which is a collection of poetry and all. Then she is introduced to the world of international poetry and what she unearths, and what are the secrets that lie in contemporary poetry, in the globally known world of contemporary poetry. What will you be asked to give up if you are going to become a global sensation, that sort of thing. And there was so much potential to this, and I had heard so much about Lang Leave's writing that this just felt like a slap to my face, because this book fell on its face with no sign of redemption. Imagine it going from talking about politics, excitement, dream come true, all of that thing in the publishing industry on a global level, to falling flat on his face because the enthusiasm seemed contrived. The writing style was also very childish in my opinion. Plus, it was an old formula set in the same old way. There was nothing new about the way in which it was written. Next was Brooklyn by Colm Toibin, and this is the story of an Irish girl who goes from Ireland to America, Brooklyn, America, to make a name for herself, to make a living for herself. This is following World War II, so you know the times that it was set in and the kind of things that women were deemed could do and couldn't do. And yet she moves forward in life. She is making something of herself. She now is slowly building a life. She meets someone, she falls in love, but some news from back home calls her back. What will happen to her life in America and what will happen to her life in general forms this entire story. I must say the plot itself, the concept itself is intriguing, because to talk about a woman making a name for herself during those times, it was a pretty intriguing one, especially to go from one country to a completely different country, especially a country as big as America. It had to be something, right? But the main character, she's very passive. She doesn't do anything until and unless she's pushed into a corner. And even then, it is too little too late. And over it all, she goes and complains about it not being fair, about things not going the way she wants them to do. If you want things to go one way, then you have to not be listless, no. You have to do something about it. I don't know, this is technically, it is not that, the male gaze or something, but it is not great either. It falls somewhere in between, and I was just very irritated by the main character because she just won't do anything. And that ending is also like, you shush. If you're not going to do anything, don't complain. Next was a YA debut from an author who I previously loved. This author, they usually wrote adult romances, and the author is Talia Hibbert, and the book was Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. So this is about two teenagers, Bradley and Celine, who are ex-best friends. Now Celine has signed up for a survival course on which Bradley is also there. So now they have to team up to win this thing and win a grand prize of sorts. How will they react to this whole teaming up thing? Like, will they be able to stay calm and get through this course, or will they just bite each other's heads off? Forms this entire story. And technically, I wouldn't say that this is bad. It's just disappointing because there's no substance to it. I was sitting there thinking that something is going to happen, something of note is going to happen, it's going to get better, but no. It was just same old, same old. It plateaued. I'd seen this so many times before in so many books, and it felt like a repetition, or rather processed version of the same old thing. The only difference is that the male main character Bradley has OCD, and these two characters have fallen out before. That's all. Technically, you can't call it enemies to lovers. But that's not my gripe, is it? The trope isn't my gripe. The writing is. The plot is. And it's so repetitive and roundabout. I didn't expect this from Talia Hibbert. Like, their earlier books were so good. The Brown Sisters trilogy, that was so amazing. Get a Life, Chloe Brown is one of my favorite books of all time. What happened here? And it was one of my most anticipated books of 2023. Next was Dear Girls by Ali Wong. This is Ali Wong's memoir. Technically, it's not a memoir. It's her writing a memoir in the form of letters to her two daughters, who she says should not read this book before they turn 21. Because, and I agree with her, there's a lot of TMI stuff in there. The kind of stuff you don't tell your children. Or maybe it was important to her. Okay, see? And yet there is so much peeing in this book, for God's sake. Like, I know that talking about a woman's bodily fluids needs to be more normalized, and it needs to not be met with derision and cringy expressions, but look at who you're talking to, right? But I have to acknowledge the fact that Ali Wong sheds a lot of light on being Chinese, Vietnamese, American, and the sexism, the misogyny, the racism that accompanies it in the world of stand-up comedy. And there are a couple of chapters that are really insightful, that are really good writing. But when it comes to the other part, when it comes to the part where she is addressing her kids, and I know that I cannot say anything about how she addresses her kids or how she talks to her kids, but irrespective of whether or not you're asking them to read it only after they turn 21, only after they come of age, doesn't matter. And moreover, I feel like whatever she's talking about in this book, it's like too much information to give your kids. Doesn't matter how old they are. I don't think they need to know that. and I probably wouldn't have said anything about it, or I wouldn't have pointed it out in my review if the whole anticlimactic behavior of hers, in which she is so vehement, she is so intolerant of the people who don't like the same thing as us. I know she's a comedian, I know she says stuff like that, but saying it on stage where you know all the cadence, where you know her expressions, everything that's coming out, it's a whole set. That is completely different from putting it in words and putting it in a book. The thing is, it's just this book that I have a problem with. I'm still a fan of Ali Wong and her work, and I'll still probably watch her comedy, etc, etc, but this book just wasn't it for me. Next was The Woman in the Library by Sulari Gentle, and this is a murder mystery of the woman in the library. So at the Boston Public Library, everybody is sitting doing their own stuff when a scream is heard. When the security guards take charge and they are checking what happened, they are trying to find the source of the scream. There are 4 strangers who are seated at a table who strike up a conversation, and they strike a rapport immediately, almost immediately. But the thing is, these 4 unlikely friends, one of them is a murderer, and who that murderer is said to be found in this book. And I was like so tired throughout this because everything feels so contrived. Everything seems like a stereotypical portrayal of what a murder mystery should be. It quickly becomes incoherent. I lost interest pretty quickly. My attention was wandering all over the place. I got distracted very easily. The character studies were just rough for the heck of it, and there was no proper glue that held the book together, and everything seemed very abrupt. It seemed very forced, and even the friend called Leo who was entering the story play, it seemed like, why is he even there? And the ending was an open ending. I usually like them because if you leave an open ending satisfyingly open, then it's going to be worth it. The whole book is going to be worth it. But when an ending ends, when a book ends like this, it's just like and I was so frustrated by the end of the book. The thing is, in retrospect, in hindsight, I feel like I wasted a lot of my time reading this book, but at the time I remember being really invested in what was happening. Maybe that is why the disappointment was so high, because the book didn't turn out to be as good as I wanted it to be somehow. That's how disappointments work, no? Anyway. Next was The Death of Murat Idrissi by Tommy Wieringa, I think his name is, and this is the story of 2 women who arrive in Morocco, and they are on a trip of sorts. A man called Saleh, he offers them his help as a guide, but he saves them from one spot only to push them into another one, and now a man called Murat Idrissi is dead, which is what the whole story is supposed to be about. There is much meaning to the title as well, because that's where it all kicks off, but it is not about him. It is about how his death affects these 2 women. You could say that there's a character study in here about how the 2 women react to this death and how they handle it, but more often than not, they're only shadows. There's nothing of substance in here. It seems like there is no point to the story. What the author is trying to say, it isn't clear. The author's writing, however, could be deemed as rather poetic, lyrical writing, but it just didn't work for me. And it's a short book at that, so imagine. Listen, this next book, it's called Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason. I was pissed off at this book, okay? Pissed off, proper pissed off. I still feel betrayed by this book because of how lightly it takes certain things. How it went from one point and it went to a completely different point, but it played into patriarchal norms. It's just... Are you serious with this story? Do you expect me to read a book about a woman who says she doesn't want a child, which I was really happy to read because we hardly see such stories anymore. Her life is going on. I mean, it's in shambles, but it is going on. And by the time the end turns around, she's like, ha ha, all this time I was fooling you. I did want a child after all. Are you freaking kidding me? I get it. I get it. Changing your mind. It's a woman's prerogative. But you're writing a story, you're making a point, you're pandering to like the women who don't want to have children. Almost till the very end. And then you go and smack them upside the head with the very manuscript, the stack, the sheaf of papers that you wrote this book on, I will never forgive Meg Mason for this. I won't even say it's a bad book. It is a disappointing book, a book that I am solely so frustrated at. I'm not even angry at the story. I'm not even angry at the main character. For example, in Yellowface, you see that I loved the book, but I hated the main character. I was pissed off at the main character. This one, it's all on the author. I'm still not over it. And every time someone says sorrow and bliss, I know my face will go, that's not under my control, I'm sorry. The next is a book I don't remember much about. Fortunately or unfortunately. That book is The Friend by Teresa Driscoll, and this is about a woman who is on a train. She's left her kid with who she thinks is a friend. She and her husband are on that train. She gets a call saying that her son is one of two boys who has met with a tragic accident, and now she wants to get home to her boy. But now that all of this has happened, she begins to question whether she should have trusted her friend Emma in the first place, because when she came to live in the village, there were a lot of rumors, there was things being said, but Sophie was like, I'm not going to pay heed to the rumors. I feel like I've found a long lost sister of sorts, so I'm going to make friends with her. I'm going to keep her in my life. But what is Emma going to do forms this entire story, and the only thing I remember is not like in this book. That's all. Other than that, like, I have nothing, and I mean nothing that comes to mind, and you can imagine what kind of a book this is if that's the case. And I'm not about to reread it to find out what it was about. Not putting myself through that again. Next was This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El Mohtar and Max Gladstone, and this is about two agents from two warring factions who go up and down time, fixing things, destroying things, erasing things as they should, so that time flows along. But during this time, red and blue are interacting with each other. They fall for each other. But what if their agencies were to find this out? What if they were to find out that they have been exchanging letters and now they are in love with opposing factions? It's like, this is a sort of a science fiction sapphic Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. And this just frustrated me to no end. I was like, yes, I understand the writing is lyrical, but I didn't find it beautiful. I just found it confusing, and it was just a lot of purple prose. And at one point, one of them goes, I wear rhapsodic, my prose purples. And I'm like, what do you mean purples? What do you think you've been doing all this while? Your prose is purple. Say my prose is becoming purpler. On a serious note, this just made me feel so dumb. It made me feel so miserable. I was restless. I wanted to know what all the hype was about. There was so much confusion behind this thing, because I went over and over the sentences thinking that what is it? What is it about this book? But I couldn't find it. That book didn't touch that chord in my brain, that thing, that place, which tells me that, look, this is a new favorite book. No favorite book, least favorite book. And this book is just like very self-important. It just goes, look, you know what? If you want to understand me, you've got to figure it out for yourself. It reminded me a lot of Margaret Atwood's writing. That was my gripe with her when I read The Handmaid's Tale, I think. Because she also writes in that manner. She is like, I'm going to write 5 sentences. Okay, reader, now you are going to take those 5 sentences and parse it in your brain. You are going to try to make sense of it. But I'll be honest, the premise of the book is very interesting. It is unique. It's the writing that makes the book so frustrating for me. If you wanted to make a book this inaccessible, I don't even know what I wanted you to do, man. Like, fine, okay. Next were 4 books. Yeah, 4 books. That's why this went from 15 to 18, no? And these are the Twisted series by Anna Huang. First one is Twisted Love. Second one is Twisted Games. Third one is Twisted Hate. Fourth one is Twisted Lies. I'm like on autopilot by this point. These are the stories of 4 girlfriends. First one is of Ava, Chen. Second one is Bridget. Third is Jules. Fourth is Stella. And how they meet all these men who turn their world upside down. They like fall in love. There's a lot of smut, like full-blown love scenes throughout the book. throughout the books. And I will tell you that Twisted Lies is the only decent one among the four, according to my opinion. At least two of these men are problematic, and these people are like, oh my god, I swoon at the sight of Alex Volkov. Justin is my whole heart. I was like, babe, are you okay? You need therapy. But whatever works for whatever people, I guess. I don't have words. I said I would torture myself. I tortured myself, and I couldn't stop. That's why my this book series has just drained all my energy. Next was In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune, one of my most anticipated book releases of 2023. And when this book was announced, I got so excited because it was TJ Klune. I was like, yes, you write anything, I will read it. But my bad, because this person, he went and wrote a story about a man-machine romance, and that gave me full ick. One of my friends from Bookstagram friends, she was telling me about how it is the desperation of humans. When you are the last person standing, what will it drive you to do? And I understand the desperation for human contact, for that feeling. But don't you think that the whole discourse with AI and AI taking over the world, AI taking over human jobs, and this one was taking it a step further. You've humanized AI and you are saying that it is capable of emotions, and you are saying that it is capable of being a love interest to humans. It just freaked me out. It creeped me out to no end. Imagine, just think of an AI human romance. Think of the level it would creep us out if it were to turn reality. You've seen AI taking over human jobs. You've seen the discourse everywhere. Musk fellow keeps doing one thing or the other every other day. There's some other nonsense going on in another part of the world. And to see all of that packaged and put up in this book, because AI, technology, computers, they're all supposed to help humans. Humans created them. And to see them coming to this point, to this level, it was just like, man, bro. I mean, I might sound like a very technology backward person, but my only concern is AI taking over the world, which should be everybody's concern, going by what is happening in the world. Next was Karna's Wife by Kavita Kane. I think I read this in December. So this is the story of Karna's second wife, actually, Urvi, who is a Kshatriya princess, and in her Swayamvara, she is expected to garland Arjuna, to choose him as her husband, but she instead chooses Karna, who is said to be of lower descent. And how her life pans out and how she deals with the decision that she has taken, the reaction that society has towards her decision, how Karna reacts to her decision, to their marriage, how Karna's household reacts to their marriage, and his friendship with Duryodhana, and the whole impending politics of the Kauravas and the Pandavas, and the impending Kurukshetra war. All of this, how Urvi handles all of that, forms this entire story. And it was not well done. I think this was Kavita Kane's first book, and maybe you could give her cut some slack, give her some leeway for it. But reading it, it was just so philosophizing, sermonizing. It felt like it just felt roundabout, repetitive. It's just going over and over and over. You are repeating the same things, okay, to make a point. If you read the same thing in 3 places, it's just going to be annoying, nothing else. And I get that the epics, Mahabharata, Ramayana, all of them were rather philosophizing, sermonizing, but that's the whole point. They are epics. If the writing style had been a lot more polished, if this combination of sermons and repetition had been a lot more polished, then I think this book would have made for a much better, much more interesting reading. Next was Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. This is supposed to be an apocalyptic, creepy, end of the world kind of book, but it just made me so frustrated. Like, what in the heavens are you trying to say? There are 2 people along with their kids who go to I think countryside home. They have rented the house, and they are just settling in when they see strange things. They see herds of animals, they see some things at the beach, etc., etc. And they return home, and now the owners are at the door. They let the owners in, and now they are discussing about what could it be. This seems like a very dire situation. There's no connectivity, no technology, the TV can't connect, and this and that. But when certain things start happening to them, to their kids, it's really time to be scared. And I was bored. I don't In my opinion is it's not a great way of writing an apocalyptic story, because it's just goes in and around itself. It falls in a loop unto itself. You are talking about something, but then you are going back to the same thing that you said a few seconds earlier. What are you talking about? Why? Like, I mean, why? It just felt like too pointless. There was no point to whatever was going on, and even if there was one, it wasn't made clear. He is going out, he is talking to someone, these people are going out somewhere else, that person is going out somewhere else. Where are you all going out? When sit at home, you know the situation, sit at home. Horror movies mein white people will do, no? Same. Have some sense of self-preservation, sit there. But maybe it was a commentary on what exactly I was saying, that you know, horror movies the mansion is haunted and white people will go skipping inside it. So maybe this was just another example. You're supposed to sit at home, but no, this fellow needs one cigarette, so he gets in his car and goes out. Where are you going? Come back. Come back. Basically, not a fan of this book. I heard the movie was good. Last but not the least, so you see how we are bracketing this list with the books that annoyed me the most. This book is The Good Neighbor by A.J. Banner, and this is the story of two people who live in it's called Shadow Cove, and they live in a very nice cul-de-sac. They have a comfortable life, they have nice neighbors, and etc, etc, etc. But one day, Johnny, who is the husband, he is out for work, and something happens. The house next to theirs starts burning. This lady, what's her name, Sarah, she goes inside to save the kid. She saves the kid, but what do they see? The fire has jumped into their house as well, and now the kid's parents are dead. Sarah and Johnny don't have a house, so through acquaintances, through friends and acquaintances, Johnny manages to snag a house for them a little distance away, and they move into there. Then there are neighbors that they meet, and now Sarah discovers a secret over here that is about to turn her world upside down. And what is that secret? See, if you're writing a murder mystery, the only trope you have is not the jealous wife, and it's not the obsessed lover. Don't, like, ultimate alliance type, you're bringing it together and trying to write a story called The Good Neighbor and making it a story about community and how community bands together. No, I'm not buying that shit. Agreed that this book was released a while ago, but does that excuse anything? Oh no. Like, is this the only thing that you can find? A obsessed lover, a jealous wife who is tailing her husband because she suspects that he is having an affair and she thinks she's going crazy. So you're being the good neighbor. Oh my god, you're being the good neighbor? Wow. This was one book that I absolutely detested. I was supposed to read Go Set a Watchman for some challenge that I was going on, but now I've given up on that. I read this instead of that, and I'm like, why was this on my TBR? And the answer was, I just bought it on a whim. No consideration at all. So thankfully, it hasn't taken much of real estate up here. So I think for that... Okay, so those were my least favorite books of 2023, and those 18 books are books that I will never recommend to you. So that was my least favorite books of 2023 video. Which of these books have you read? Did you like any of these? Were there any favorites that you spotted in this video? What were your least favorite books of 2023? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, please like it and share it to spread the word. And if you like my content and would like to see more from me, don't forget to hit subscribe and click on the bell icon beside the subscribe button to get notified as and when I post new videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and add melodrama to your life.